When I was editing my planned next video last night, I was not thinking I'd be in front of the camera this soon. But as I was walking back from uni today, Stranger Things posted a new sneak peek. I mean, it is literally just crumbs, like who would be kidding? But it does make me hopeful that promo season has maybe started, and I love any new content I can get my hands on. So, obviously, I was going to have to make a video analysing it way too much because even though there's only a selection of new clips, and by now I was kind of hoping that we'd get a full length trailer, I'm still so thrilled and I love picking out the new information. So I hope that all of you really enjoyed the new sneak peek. I think it balanced everything really well. I loved the interviews and the behind the scenes mixed with the new clips, but also the interviews I think showed us that we will be getting a documentary of all of this. They're not going to put this much effort into just a sneak peek because why would they? Why would they get all the cast like dressed up and properly like speaking about it just for this one 3-minute video? And whilst I might not go into as much depth for this entire sneak peek because we don't really need to, there's so many clips that we've already seen. I already know that this video is going to be so long. So buckle in, I guess. So the first thing I'm going to pick out is the quote that the Duffers opened the sneak peek with. So I have my notebook down here. So if I look down here, I'm reading the quote. And they said, something magical about childhood. We wanted to do what we could to capture that feeling that ultimately is at the heart of the story of Strange Things. And I think that just shows that the main party is going to be our main focus again, which I'm so pleased about because they haven't been together for what feels like so long. And they've sort of been pushed to the sidelines as new characters have come in, which you can kind of understand. But also, I'm just really happy that they're going to be back. And that it's really going to bring it back to the roots of Strange Things and go back to season one. And we actually have a lot of season two behind the scenes and season three, four, and five, but it opens with a lot of season two. And again, it's going to be put in the documentary, so I'm pretty sure it is. Otherwise, why would they keep it from us? And that also begs a wider question. They obviously have footage that they've purposefully kept from us. They could have put the season two behind the scenes in Beyond Stranger Things, the companion piece that they released for season two, where they sort of spoke behind the scenes about how the entire series was made and sort of the actors' decisions. But they didn't. So I think that means that we're going to get some clips from the actual show from previous seasons in the new season, which I'm so excited about. Because there was a behind the scenes clip of Noah Schnapp at Rinkomania in his not Rinkomania outfit. I think it was the outfit that he wore for like the entire road trip. But obviously he wasn't there. So he's obviously filmed some extra scenes, which might be maybe Vecna visions or something to do with that, because we know he had a really hard time in season four. So it might be bringing him back to that time and maybe taunting him about Mike and Elle's relationship. And we also know that we had the whole 2 days later thing, which again, I won't go on about how much I hate, but it does mean that we have 2 whole days worth of scenes, which they might have filmed in season four, and we might be able to see in season five if they're bringing stuff back from previous seasons. And the most important one to bring back is from season one, where Mike bikes back from seeing Will's dead body and is crying in the rain. I need this. Every Byler needs this. We've been speaking about it for ages, and Finn Wolfhard was disappointed that it wasn't included. So I wouldn't be surprised if they brought it back, especially because season 5 focuses on Will so much. He's the main character, and he's going to be with Mike all the time. So it would make sense if they brought that back, especially with the flashback they're going to have in episode 4, The Sorcerer, with a younger Will, Mike, and Jonathan. In the interviews, they emphasise a lot that it's been a long journey making the TV show and how they've watched the kids grow up, which again I think emphasises how much the focus is going to be on the main party and how they're actually going to be priority, and hopefully we'll see them have a happy ending if they seem this important to the story. And we also have some behind the scenes from season 2, 3, and 4, And I just love them in their little Ghostbusters outfits. And season 2, A Trick or Treat Freak is my favorite episode of the entire show, I think. So it was just really nice to see all of that. Another thing I will mention is that a lot of the behind the scenes is of just of the main party, which again, emphasizing them and showing how important they'll be. And then we have a behind the scenes from season 5 of Dustin and Lucas, aka Caleb and Gayton. And this makes me really excited because Dustin's t-shirt isn't ripped at this point. All the other clips we've seen of Dustin in his Hellfire Club t-shirt, they've been ripped. So it sort of lines up the timeline a bit better for us than we have before. My current theory is that since he's already with Lucas, this happens at school. Because it wouldn't make sense for it to happen from the basketball team because Lucas isn't there. So why would Caleb be on set? So I think what happens is that Dustin goes into school and gets targeted immediately because we can see from the clip from the behind the scenes last July, not even last July, the July before is taken this long, that they walk through the school hallways and you can see that it's already ripped. So I think goes straight in, gets targeted, and then they walk through the hallways. Later they have lunch, they discuss a plan, they have the radio, and then after that, I think he probably gets targeted a bit more because he seems quite hesitant when they're at the table in the woods to be discussing a further plan. And then I think after that, he goes to Eddie's grave and then gets beat up by the basketball guys. And I just feel so sorry for him. Dustin needs to catch a break, honestly. Then we have a shot of, weirdly, a door in the middle of a field. It's up on 2 blue stands, which tells us that it's supposed to be floating as we're not supposed to see those stands. And it just seems like a really weird clip to include. But I have 2 theories on what it might be. I think one is maybe a bit of a reach, and then the second one I think is more likely. So the first one is that it's something to do with Elle. We know that Elle is training a lot. She's training in the scrapyard. She's probably training in some sort of field. We don't know where Hopper's going to take her. And we know that she's going to be a real focus for Vecna, and Vecna's going to want to target her. So he could be providing the illusion that a door's there. But I don't think that Elle would be sort of not stupid, but well, Elle isn't stupid, but we know that she probably wouldn't go through there. So I think if it is to do with Elle, it could do with her being inside someone's memories. Because as we know, when she was inside Max's memories, there was something out of place when Max was at the skate park, and that was a DJ set from the Snowball. I think she might be in Will's memories, and he might be playing in the field or something, and then she'll go through the door, and it will be a memory of him playing or something like that to do with his childhood. Probably with Mike, I imagine. But that door isn't from the Byers' house. The Byers' house has wooden doors. If it was from anywhere, it would be from the Wheeler house. So either Will is hiding somewhere in a memory in the Wheeler house, which could relate to the flashback, but that wouldn't explain why Jonathan was there. I think a better theory is that it's to do with Holly. Because again, Wheeler door, Holly Wheeler, she's going to have that door. And we know from the vanishing of Holly Wheeler that Vecna's going to be targeting her this season. And I really think that he might be providing an illusion. She might be in the field, might be an illusion for a floating door. And obviously, she's a kid. She's going to go look inside. Or it might be during the target on the Wheeler house, and she might go to open her door and it might lead onto that field. Because we do know that Vecna's able to make doors lead to places that they don't through his trances, because we saw that with how he did for Victor Creel, for how he went through his Vecna trance, which I think is such an interesting idea. We also know that Will and Mike are in a field at some point with shovels and will probably be looking for the tunnels. So that could mean that they're looking for Holly. It would be pretty likely because obviously they're not going to think that Holly's just going to be on the field. They know that Vecna's taken her, so their immediate thought is going to be the tunnels. And then a slightly tenuous link, but we're going to go with it anyway. It could link to A Wrinkle in Time as well, because the sequel of A Wrinkle in Time is called A Wind in the Door, I think. Yep, A Wind in the Door. And we've had links to A Wrinkle in Time before. We know that it's going to be the same dynamic as Mike, Will, and Holly this season. And we know that Camazotz, from the episode title Escape from Camazotz, is a direct link to Wrinkle in Time, which is an alternate dark planet that sounds a lot like the Upside Down. We have a quick shot of the lab with vines on the wall, and then we move on to Sean Levy looking at a storyboard. Now, I thought it was probably Will, Mike, and Lucas on the storyboard, and this made me link it to the scene in the last teaser where it looked like Will, Mike, and Lucas were running through the tunnels. But then also, I did think that it might be Elle as well, because some of the silhouettes did look like her. And also, the background of the storyboard is the place where one of the Duffers, I can't really tell them apart to be honest, told Will, well, Noah Schnapp, to do this action in July's behind the scenes. So this makes me think that maybe Will might be possessed and they might be trying to save him from himself, or he might be being attacked by Vecna, because we know he is going to be targeted because of the last teaser where he had Vecna's hand in his face. And then we have one of the Duffers saying, "And you explode through." And it's Steve, Dustin, and then we can presume that Nancy and Jonathan will be in the back. So we probably knew from the last teaser that they'd be driving through the Upside Down, which is pretty cool because we didn't know that they could do that. And it seems from that the trip to the Upside Down was very planned. You wouldn't bring a car there accidentally, of course. And also it does show that they're going to need to be more prepared and they need more speed. Because from the previous teasers, it looked like the Demodogs and Demogorgons have got a lot faster. So they need this car to escape. Then we have a shot of Erica in the middle school, and it just makes me so happy to see the middle school again. And we're going to get Mr. Clark back. And I just love that Erica's going to proudly be a nerd. She's going to be answering every question. And I think this might also be where we meet the kids that Mike is protecting later on in the scene where Will is slumped over Joyce. And I also think this is where we probably meet Derek, and this will probably take place in this will probably occur in like episode 1, I imagine, because that will be the time where we can adjust into them regulating in this apocalyptic world. We then also have a shot of Mike, because you can slightly see his jacket if you pause it in the right section. Joyce, who seems to be in an outfit that we've only really seen in the behind the scenes photo of her with Finn, Caleb, and Noah. And then we also have Lucas, who seems to be in a new outfit. It's sort of like a blue jumper, but it's not the WSQK jumper that we've already seen him in. His jacket seems to be covered in dirt, and also Will isn't there. And Will is very much in that group, it seems, all season. So I reckon they're probably looking for him. He's probably in some sort of danger because we know he's going to be in so much danger this season, and I'm really scared for him. The lighting seems quite tunnely, and we know that definitely Lucas is going in the tunnels this season. So it wouldn't surprise me if they're all in the tunnels looking for Will, because Will knows the tunnels so well. So he might be possessed by Vecna and sort of just automatically go in around the tunnels, which would be a possibility. And also, this seems to happen around the same time as the Demogorgon attack in the farm, because it's the same outfits then. And this makes me wonder where Lucas was during that. It might be that he's gone to visit Max, whether this happens before or after. I reckon it will probably happen after, because I think that Lucas's jacket and jumper will be so dirty that he's going to have to change into whatever he can, and that's going to be the WSQK jumper. Because also he doesn't wear his jacket when he's holding Max in the hospital when they're being attacked by Demodogs, which again tells me that his clothes were probably dirty and he probably went there in a rush. Then we have a scene that we've had a photo of before, and that is of Mike, Lucas, Nancy, Jonathan, and Steve all sort of positioned over a hole in the ground, and Steve has a chainsaw. I think it's in the Turbo house, and I don't really know. I think it's going to be part of the plan that they have with Erica to get inside, but I don't know why they've chainsawed down. It just doesn't make any sense at the moment. But the camera is filming from a below angle, and there's the like blue sort of screen behind them. So it makes me think that something's happened to the roof, or sort of there needs to be like a creature above them or something, because otherwise, why would they have that blue screen there? They just build a roof. And also, Will isn't there again. And if he was in imminent danger, I don't think Jonathan or Mike would leave him. So this makes me think that whether they have to go to the turbos in order to help Will, maybe. Then we have a shot of Dustin's locker, and it has graffiti about Hellfire, which again just proves to me how set he's going to be on keeping Eddie's memory alive this season. And sort of, he's going to be a bit like Will in season 3, where he always talks about D&D, I think. Or he might just realize that they can't hide behind D&D anymore because it's not a children's game and everything's really serious, which would be really sad. And then we also have a locker open near him that has a drawing and a picture of a car. Now, I think the picture of the car is quite representative of masculinity and sort of performance of this masculinity, because we saw in season 1 that Steve has a picture of a car up in his room, and obviously he was very sort of overtly masculine in season 1, trying to constantly prove himself. So I will be very interested about whose locker this is, because if it's Will or Mike's, I think it'll be quite indicative of what their arc is going to be this season, and I can't wait for that. Then we have an interview from Joe Keery, and he says, whether they're a popular dude or some band nerd, a parent, a teacher, a Russian scientist, everybody sort of feels like they're kind of an outcast. And I think this show is about bringing people like this together. And I will repeat this until I die. This show is for outcasts. And I think some people need to remind themselves of this, especially, and I warn you, I'm a biler, so if you're not and this gets annoying, sorry. But some people saying that it's unrealistic for the show to end with a centering a main gay couple. This show is for outcasts. It's supposed to uplift the people that don't usually get uplifted by TV shows. We don't want to focus on the cool and acceptable people. I'm an outcast. A lot of the Stranger Things fandom is an outcast. It's just what makes a show. And I love that they included this in the sneak peek, because I think this just hammers home that message and that it's going to be so prevalent in season 5. Then we have an interview with Brett Gelman, and he is in his Bradley's Big Buy outfit, which does make me a bit curious whether he only has one costume this season, because everyone else is in their first outfit of the season. And by the time we see Murray in his Bradley's Big Buy outfit, Robin is in her mid-season outfit. So it does make me wonder what's actually going on with Murray this season, and whether he might be an early death, I don't know. And we also have a new shot of Robin and Murray in the van, which again we knew was happening, but it's a new angle. Then we have a shot of Elle and Mike hugging in the field. I think this is in the field outside the radio station, because this is before their rooftop conversation. And Mike is in his beginning of the season outfit. Again, it's hard to tell with Elle because she pretty much just has the same outfit all season, but we can see behind, sort of below his jacket, it's his beginning of the season outfit. And now, again, if you're not a Byler, if you don't want to hear about Byler, completely fair enough. We respect all ships here, but just skip to this point. Now, again, Bylers, this clip just fills me with so much hope. And I know that seems so wrong, but we are being straight baited so much. Because just like, why, if Malevolent was going to be Endgame, why would they spoil it in so much introductory promo? We haven't even got into the thick of the promo, but we've got no Byler content. And that tells me that that's a spoiler for us. That the general audience think that Malevolent is going to be a given. But people don't know that Byler will probably be Endgame, at least in my opinion. So this is good news for us. We have a new shot of Vecna, and then we have Dustin on a walkie-talkie with Nancy sat behind him and Jonathan with a torch. And it's our first proper shot of the church. We know that the church is going to be quite an important setting in season 5, and it seems it's only going to be in the Upside Down, which does make me question why it's there and what significance it held for Will, because obviously we know that the Upside Down got frozen when Will was taken there. But this scene just seems very exciting because Dustin's obviously communicating with someone. I think it's Steve, because Steve is part of this group, but we don't see him in this shot. Also, I think Steve might stumble to them injured, or they might get attacked by something, or maybe something sudden happens, because during this little clip, we can see Nancy go to get up, and Jonathan's torch whip round the other way as if they're expectantly seeing something in front of them. I also think it's interesting that they decided to show us a church clip where Mike and Will weren't there. They might be inside because they might be sort of protecting them. But again, because they're the only two characters we pretty much know are going to be there. And we've just been told that all these new characters are also there. And then the next new clip is Mike and Elle on the rooftop. We've known about this scene for ages. It was one of the first scenes to be leaked that they were filming. The lighting is more of a sunset, so it's definitely after they hug and greet each other. Some time might pass between that first scene and the discussion on the rooftop. Now, you can go and watch lots of guessing of what they're saying of videos on YouTube. I'm not very good at lip reading, but the ones that I trust, it looks like Mike is worried about Will, saying he's angry and frantic and not himself. And also, it seems that they're discussing what will happen when they win, because they're not used to ever properly winning. They're so used to having to go back into battle. And Mike uses D&D to explain this to Al and sort of discuss what might happen finally when they're free of Vecna. Again, if you don't want to hear anti-Malevolent stuff, completely fair enough. Skip to this place. Again, straight baiting. They're gonna push Malevolent. They're not gonna push Malevolent this much if it's Endgame. They don't want to spoil the final couples. They were even that's why they created the Jancy Stancy thing in season 4, so we don't know. Because these two, they don't look coupley in either of these shots. They're not really like the hug. They could have kissed if we're supposed to sort of think that they're together. And then here, they're not sat close together. It's sort of they're having a serious conversation. So again, I think Bylas, we're okay. Some people think this could be a breakup, but I think that's going to happen later in the season, mirroring what happened with Jancy and Stancy in season 2. I know Elle does look sad at the clip afterwards, but I think that's sort of daunting on her that she might have to go properly into training, not really see anyone, or she's worried about Will, or sort of just, you're going to be upset about Hawkins being in an apocalyptic situation. It's not fun for anyone. We then have some season 5 behind the scenes of the core 4 walking together and then doing their little hand in and out on the table. And again, I just love them, and I'm so excited that they're going to be together because they haven't properly been together since season 2, since they put Steve and Dustin together, and sort of they've kind of stayed more than the main 4. And then we have a Millie interview where she says, everyone is put into it. No one is sitting back on a walkie-talkie. Thank God. Honestly, it's been too long that our main characters have been sidelined, that they haven't had too much to do. So I'm so excited for this season that they're actually given proper things to do. Mike Wheeler will finally go in the Upside Down, which I'm so pleased about because we've been waiting so long. I just can't wait for our main characters to actually have things to do. And then we have a shot of Elle training in the field. I think that's going to be a lot of her season this season, trying to train and get strong enough to defeat Vecna, because as we saw in the last teaser, she was flying. She knows what to do. And I found it really interesting how in this bit of the teaser, they went Elle, Mike, Elle, like each on their own, sort of showing how their independence is growing and how sort of they're molding into their real selves. We have a shot of Mike cycling and he looks quite panicked. We know that off to the side is probably Lucas from a photo we saw last teaser, but it does make me wonder whether he's rushing back to Will, because we know that Will collapsed from the burn and Mike is only going out to do with the burn. So it really could be to do with this, because I just think it will be great to sort of see protective Mike again. And then we have Elle sort of practicing her powers again. Also, her blindfold being midway down her forehead. Either she's getting fashion advice from Lucas, or she might be going between her mind powers, putting it on her eyes, and then also real life powers, because she might have to practice going in between Vecna's mind and actually attacking him in real life. We then have an exploding signal on the top of a van. This isn't the WSQK van. It seems to be some sort of military van. So Elle is probably doing that to them to stop them from stopping them to defeat Vecna, ironically. And then also we have another shot of soldiers being blown up by the grenade that Hopper throws behind the Turnbow sign that I discussed in my last video about the last teaser. And again, this sort of just provides a new angle. It's nothing we didn't know before. Then we have Joyce driving the WSQK van in a lot of panic. She looks behind, and Will looks behind the entire time. This is early on in the season, and it makes me wonder. I am quite between whether Will gets possessed this season or not. I really don't know what's going to happen. But if he does get possessed, it does make me wonder how maybe he collapses during the burn and then gets possessed by Vecna and hurts either Elle, Robin, or Nancy, who are still in the room. He could be looking back just because he feels so guilty that he allowed himself to get possessed and he hurt one of the people he really cares about. Or it could just be that they're generally hurt, have to go to the hospital, and Will's such a caring person anyway that he's obviously going to be really concerned. There's a shot of Joyce holding the axe from the scene in the farm where the Demogorgon attacks them, and you can see a peek of a check shirt, which again reminded me sort of how Elle was dressed in check shirts in season 4 to mirror Will. So Joyce is also being dressed like that to mirror Will, to maybe show that she's being more protective this season. Then we have Nancy loading up a gun with Jonathan beside her. I think this is probably in the Turnbow house. They might be preparing for what is underneath wherever Steve chainsaws, or it might be before Nancy rushes in with Elle to wherever they rush into last teaser. We have another new shot of Vecna before I think he loses his eye, because I really believe he's going to lose his eye this season. And I also really believe that Will is, from all the evidence of all the promo pictures where his eye is in a darkened space. So don't say I didn't warn you guys. And then we move on to everyone talking about the high stakes of it all. This is something that has been teased for ages. Again, nothing new. And then we have Joyce with Hopper, a new scene where Joyce, I think it's the second time that she visits them, because he isn't in the burgundy top. He's more ready for a mission, which I think is when they're going to go into the Upside Down. So Joyce is probably saying goodbye to him, hoping that he's going to be okay. They probably won't be able to explore their relationship that much this season, because they're both going to be really worried about their children, which is such a shame. But I'm really hoping for an Enzo's date at the end of season 5. We then have a new angle of them all having a meeting in the radio station. Again, it's our usual group at that point. It's Joyce, Robin, Nancy, Steve, Jonathan, Lucas, Mike, and Dustin. We can't see Will, and I think he's going to be in front of the projector explaining something. It could be his connection to the Upside Down. It could be sort of how Vecna thinks, because in order to defeat him, they're going to have to know how he thinks. And also, Dustin's moved directly to the projector, so his expertise might be needed. It might be to do with the tunnels or demodogs, as we know he had his relationship with Dart in season 2, or generally because he's very smart, they might be trying to figure something out, and he might be put in that position to try and figure it out. We have another shot of Robin and Murray in the Brady Big Buys van, which again, we already know about, so not too exciting. And then we have a shot of the Duffers with Noah watching a scene. And it does seem normal at first, but then you look behind Noah and someone is in Dustin's hat from season 1. And this might be that Dustin is wearing it again, trying to circle back to his childhood, because Caleb also doesn't have his flat top haircut. So judging by the others, this could be epilogue outfits. But I also think that'd be way too much for spoiler. So I don't know if it's just their regular outfits. But again, it does make me think that this is filmed at the end of the season. We have some more season 5 behind the scenes, and we also have the lab covered in vines. Again, it's exciting that this is going to be such an important location, but it does beg the question why the lab was so important for it to be involved in essentially Will's creation of the Upside Down and freezing it in time. We then have the military in the Upside Down lab, which is exciting because, ironically, the military are going to go into the Upside Down and still think that Elle is at fault of this, because they're obviously going against Elle. And then we also have some shots of Linda Hamilton, because she's leading the military group this year. Not this year, this season. And then we also have a shot of Elle running. And from the fog, just at the very lower bit, it does look like the Wheeler house. So whether this is like a mind trance where she's sort of going into her past and she's going to be running past the Wheeler house, but it does look like that, or whether it's something to do with Will, because obviously we think he's going to be staying there this season. We have the military shooting, and then we have an explosion, and then one of the most exciting shots of this entire sneak peek, in my opinion, is Holly running in the woods. She's in her D&D outfit, and this is obviously against Vecna. Vecna's going to be targeting her this season, and it's really going to be the first time that she's properly involved in the Upside Down. And it might be interesting to see sort of what her connections were, because even back in season 1, it was trying to lure her down there with the lamps. But again, I'm just so excited. And also the fact that she's running in the woods and Will got lost in the woods, these two are going to be paralleling each other all season. We have Hopper cutting into a bit of the Upside Down that it looks like, or stabbing. And then, which this is also a very exciting scene, we have the farm barn scene again, except Derek's on the floor, Will seems to be holding him down, and Robin and Erica are running towards something. My initial view of this scene was because in the last scene of this situation, it looked like Will was being possessed or in a trance, and also Derek was a lot higher than the others, so he might have been in a Vecna trance. He doesn't seem an important enough character to justify that, or like an in-depth enough character, but Vecna might just be targeting anyone at this point. And Derek might fall down and Will might be trying to help him, whilst Erica and Robin go to help Joyce, who might be being attacked by the Demogorgon at that point. Or it has been pointed out to me by someone on Tumblr that it might be that Will is being possessed and holding Derek down, or Derek is possessed and Will is holding Derek down, and that Robin and Erica are running to Joyce for her help because she's the adult in this situation. And if it is Will being possessed, then she is the one person that might be able to break it out of him. We then have a shot of Robin and Will in the woods looking a bit panicked. And again, this is going to be my favourite pairing all season, apart from Mike and Will, obviously. But I'm so excited to see them have more scenes together. And then our closing shot of this trailer is a Demogorgon ripping through someone's walls. And in my opinion, this looks like the colour of Holly's walls. So I really think Holly is in it for a really bad season this season. So this was my analysis of this trailer. Sorry if you've watched it get darker throughout the video, because I am filming this at 8 o'clock in the evening, but I had to get it out of my system and get it out. So tell me, what did you think of the sneak peek? What are your current working theories? I really want to know. And I will see you guys in my next video, which hopefully should be coming very soon.